Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. This is going to be my final video for 2022. I can't believe I'm saying that. It's kind of crazy. But I'm doing my books I read in 2022 wrap up. Just kind of going to give like my ratings, what I read, kind of what I thought. I'm not going to go into depth on all of them. Like I'll just put a picture up here and y'all can kind of go through whatever you want and see if y'all are interested in anything. I have a couple in progress still, but this is kind of just in order of what I read this year, and I'm really excited to share that with y'all. So hope y'all had a good Christmas, and New Year's coming up, so I'm gonna get this hopefully up before then. But yeah, I just want to show y'all this sweatshirt too. I got it from Target. It is so cute. It has the peanuts on it. I love them. Okay, so I'm gonna get into the books I read this year. Okay, the first book I read, I started at Christmas time last year. It is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. And this was the first like fantasy novel, or kind of like, I don't even know what the word is, just kind of something that's not basic fiction. It's more historical fiction, but it's kind of got some other elements in it. I can't really say much without giving it away, but it was probably one of the best books I've ever read. And it's one of her newer books, I believe. She has other books like series and stuff, but I really enjoyed it. This book, I loved it so much. It kind of was heart-wrenching to me at some points just because of all the things that the main character Addie had to go through. So basically, I'll just give y'all a little synopsis. So basically, she gets into the situation and she talks to the gods after dark, and she becomes immortal, but no one will remember her. So like, for example, like if she meets someone face to face, like, like, oh, hey, I'm Addie, nice to meet you, and they'll know her, but as soon as she walks away or they walk away and they come back, they don't remember her. So it's kind of heartbreaking to have listen to her deal with all these people that she loves, and even her family doesn't remember her. And it was such a good book. Y'all have to check it out, but it was one of my favorite books that I've ever read. Okay, the next book I read was a very popular book on TikTok, and everyone else was reading it. It was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I rated it 4 out of 5. I thought it was so good. I binged it in like a 3-day weekend. Just because of how it was set up, it was easy to read, and I wanted to know the tea. Like, I wasn't obsessed with it. I just thought that it was a unique perspective of a woman, in old Hollywood who came from nothing and had all this money and husbands. And it was kind of a heartbreaking story, to be honest with you. I really enjoyed it. It was something different to read, which I really liked that. I read it. Okay, the next book I read was The Last Mrs. Parrish by Liv Constantine. I rated it a 2 out of 5 on Goodreads. So this one was it was hard for me. So like, it's in 2 different perspectives. So like, Amber is the girl, like the main character, and then there's Daphne, which is Mrs. Parrish. And it was just I wasn't really into it. Like, I know everybody raved about it, and I just like, the first half was about Amber. I wasn't really into it. I was just like, okay, this girl's crazy, for what she was trying to do. And then it got to Daphne's point of view, and I was shook. Like, her perspective of the husband versus Amber's perspective and the kids and everything. It was crazy. The ending was good, but it just wasn't for me. It was a good thriller book per se, but I've read better. Like, it just wasn't something I was really interested in, but it wasn't bad. Okay, the next book I read was probably the most popular book everybody read. It was Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. I rated it 5 out of 5. This was probably the better than Addie LaRue. This is probably the best book that I've ever read. It was just so, I don't even know. It was so good. Like the coming of age and all the romance and just the hardships that she had to go through with Kaya and Tate and everything. It was so good. Like, this is the first book that I finished reading. I remember I was at the doctor's office and I was there forever. And I was reading it and I finished it in the exam room, and I was just like empty inside. Like, it was such a good book. It was really slow, and I heard a lot of people couldn't get into it, and I could see that why people wouldn't be a fan of it at first, but I'm glad I stuck through with it. And then when the movie came out over the summer, I went with the girls from work to watch it, and it was probably one of the best movies from books that I've ever personally watched. It was so good. I had a lot of the details. I mean, I think the end of the movie was kind of rushed as far as like her later years and things like that, but it was so good. And the book, I'll probably reread it again. I'm glad I did it. It was amazing. Okay, the next book I read was Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. I rated this 5 out of 5 as well. This is the first book that I have ever cried when I finished it. It was just such a good story. This one again was heartbreaking too, between like Kenna and Deem. And it was just, oh my God, it was so good. I know Colleen Hoover, you know, the hype, whatever. This is probably my best book that I've read by her, you know, besides Verity and all that. But I really enjoyed it. It was a nice family-oriented story. And I liked how when they did the part of the backstory for Kenna, I thought that was really interesting too, and getting her perspective on what happened and stuff. So yeah, I really recommend that one as well. The next book I read was The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I rated it, let me see, 3 out of 5. So this one, okay, I could see the potential in this book. I didn't hate it, but I wasn't obsessed with it. Like, I think it had good imagery and things like that of the Midnight Library. To me, I would give a trigger warning for it for like suicide and things like that, because it was kind of a dark read. Like when I got in the middle of it, I kind of stopped reading it for a couple weeks because I was like, I don't think I should be reading this. It just made me feel like really sad, and it wasn't even affecting me. Like it wasn't about me or relatable to me, but it was really sad. The ending was really good. I liked the dramatic ending of it, but I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It was good. It didn't live up to the hype for me. The next book I read was A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This is the first book. I still haven't finished the trilogy. So this is my toxic trait, is that when I find a series that I really like, I don't want it to end, so I don't finish the series. But yeah, it was really good. I enjoyed it. I was really fast-paced, and it is a YA novel, but I never felt like it was childish or anything like that. Like the setting is in high school, but to me, the main character, it wasn't childish. It was really good, fast-paced, kind of mystery thriller. It reminded me of like Nancy Drew almost. I really liked it. I recommend that one. 5 out of 5. The next book is one of the classics for a while. It was The Help by Catherine Stockett. I rated it 5 out of 5. I love this movie. I've watched this movie like 5 or 6 times a year ever since high school. And I saw the movie first, and then I read the book. I read the book this year. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. It had more details than the movie, and it kind of made the movie make more sense. Like the backstories of like Celia and all them, and it was really good. I love that book. That was my first book I read by the author as well. So yeah, I really recommend that one. It was so good. Okay, now we're getting into more of my summer reads. The next book I read was Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I rated it 4 out of 5. So one of the characters from Evelyn Hugo, one of the husbands, is in this book too, and it's about his children. And I found that was kind of interesting because it was kind of like a play on from both books. It was Mick Riva, one of her husbands, and it was about his kids and what they went through and all this stuff. It was a good summer book. This was the one where they were like surfing and all this stuff, and I really didn't want it to end because it was like a bunch of siblings, you know, trying to make it through, and I really enjoyed that one, so I highly recommend that one. The next book I read was Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. I rated it a 4 out of 5 when I read it, but now thinking back on it, I really would probably rate it a 3 out of 5. It was really good. It was summer. It was like they went on this yacht trip to like some forbidden island or something, and it was good, like the suspense, but the ending to me was so far-fetched and so just insane that it was just kind of like, what the heck did I just read? It was my first book by her also, and I heard that she has really good thrillers, but the ending, it was just so strange to me that I just couldn't get past that. So y'all would have to read that and figure that out for yourself. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I liked it more when I read it, but now that I read more thrillers, it's not one of my favorites, so I did end up donating it. But it was a good summer read. The next book I read was The People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I rated it 3 out of 5. So this one was one of my first like romance, like typical romance books besides like Colleen Hoover, Nicholas Sparks, things like that. I enjoyed it. It was kind of slow for me. Like I stopped reading it for like 3 weeks because I was just kind of like in a slump with it. I wasn't like into it. I'm glad I read it. Like it was really cute. But I just never really read a book like that. It was good. I'm just more of like a thriller mystery type of girl. But yeah, I really liked it. It was a cute little summer read. I may try to read, what's her other book? Beach Read or Book Lovers by her maybe. It's like a good typical like naming sounds. It's Beach Read. It was a cute book. The next book I read was the second book in the Harry Potter series, The Chamber of Secrets by J.K. Rowling. I rated it 4 out of 5. It's just a nostalgic read for me. Like I remember reading them in high school. I'm still trying to get through the series altogether as an adult. I love the books. Me and my dad are just obsessed with Harry Potter. It's like a comfort thing to me. They're nice, cute fall books that I enjoy reading. So yeah, that was the one I read. I really enjoyed it. The next book was more of a religious book for me. It kind of helped me in this season of life I was in. It's Find Your People by Jenny Allen. I rated it 3 out of 5. So some of it, like I love Jenny Allen. I love her advice and her motivational speaking. A lot of it was more like personal stories that like I understand the tie-in of it. I just kind of skimmed those and kind of got to the point of the book. It's about, branching out in your church, making friends, and just going out of your comfort zone to find your tribe of people. It was really good. It was what I needed in that time. I'd probably recommend it to the other girls. But yeah, I love Jenny Allen. I like Get Out of Your Head by her better than Find Your People, but it was still really good and I enjoyed it. The next book I read online was the Harry Potter prequel. It was only like 5 pages, but my muggle heart could not take it. It was so cute and just so, I have no words. But yeah, I counted it as a book and I loved it. Okay, the next book I read was more of a recent read. I read it in September. It was The Perfect Marriage by Geneva Rose. I rated it 4 out of 5. So I read it on our trip to St. Louis for the women's conference we went to in the fall. And I read it. So we left on like a Wednesday and I started it in the airport. And then by the time we landed on Sunday, I was done with it. And it was so good. It was my first book by her as well. I really enjoyed it. It was fast-paced. It was a nice book to get me out of a slump. And just the whole, like, setting and the whole theme and the plot twist was it kind of had me shook. I thought I had a different idea, but I didn't. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'd highly recommend reading that one. If you like mystery, thriller, something you need to get you out of a slump, that's the book. Okay, the next book I read is part of a 3-part series. It was The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I rated it a 4 out of 5. I loved it. It was just something that was different. It's a YA kind of mystery games and a family type situation. It was very interesting. I really, really enjoyed it. I read the first book pretty fast. The second one took me a little bit just because I had some stuff going on, but I really enjoyed it. Highly recommend it. Go read it. Okay, the next book I read, and I didn't really read the whole thing, so I'll explain it. It was the epilogue that just came out of Verity. And I read Verity 2 years ago, like when it first came out, the hype of it. It was a good book. It kind of was dark and it had me kind of scared. Like I would leave the book in the living room at night and not put it in my room because it was terrifying. But I read the epilogue and it kind of it just proved what I already knew. Like, without, there's no spoilers, but I just make it make sense. And the next 2 books I read at the same time, because I read it in November and everyone was reading this book in November, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna do it too. It was November 9 by Colleen Hoover. I rated it 4 out of 5. So I read the first couple chapters in like a day and it was so cute. I was obsessed. And then when I got midway into like the climax of the story, I was depressed. I didn't want to read it anymore. I was like, what is the point of this book? I'm glad I finished it though. I really enjoyed it. It was super cute. It wasn't my favorite by her. I haven't really read a bunch of hers. I like Regretting You and Reminders of Him more, but I definitely enjoyed it. And And then at the same time, I was reading The Hawthorne Legacy. It is the second book in the Inheritance Game series. I like the second one better than the first one just because the first book was kind of like getting introduced to the characters, the story building, things like that. And the second book was where a lot of action took place. And again, no spoilers, just read the series. You won't regret it. Next book I read, I finished it last weekend. It's really short. It was Skipping Christmas by John Grisham. I rated it 4 out of 5. It's the book that the Christmas with the Cranks movie is based off of. It got me in the holiday spirit. It was so cute. It was just like the movie. It was something different that I needed to read. Because I know he usually writes like legal thrillers and stuff like that, but it was so cute. And if you need a little book to get you in the holiday spirit, that's the one. It was like 170 pages, and the book it was so funny. Like, the movie was funny. I don't know if I didn't expect the book to be funny, but I thought it was so funny, and y'all need to check that out. Okay, the last book I read was nonfiction this year. It was The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F by Mark Manson, and I rated it 2 out of 5. So it's probably gonna be an unpopular opinion. I did not care for it. Like, the title should have kind of given me like a little insight to the book. So let me just explain. So I didn't hate it. I feel like it had good life advice and just a different perspective on issues that we have as humans in today's society that really aren't as big of a deal as we think they are. That part of the book I enjoyed, like the little snippets, things like that, but everything else, like the stories, just the unnecessary fluff of the book, I did not care for it. Like, the chapters would be like 25 pages long, and I would just skim all the way to like the last couple paragraphs of the chapter to get the main point, and that's all I really needed to do. Like, I know he's a very popular blogger and things like that. It just wasn't for me. Okay, these last 2 books are still in progress for me right now. It is The Final Gambit. It is the last book of the Inheritance Game series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I'm about a couple chapters in. I've just been kind of in a slump. Again, with my trilogy, I don't want to finish it because I love it so much. And I started the Crescent City series, The House of Earth and Blood, and I am like 160 pages in. I'm reading it with my friend Skylar, and I am shook. Without saying spoilers, I don't know what to say about what happened, and it upsets me. Like, I hope that it's not real and there's more politics behind it and that it's not real, but I feel like it's real. And that makes me really sad. But yeah, I'm gonna keep y'all updated on those 2. I don't know how I feel about Crescent City. I like it. I have to take notes because I'm not a person who reads fantasy. So this would be my first fantasy, and it is like 800 pages. Like, I'm very intimidated. That's why I started reading it with a friend. So I take notes, we talk about it so I can understand what is going on, because there's a lot of characters. They have a lot of like houses and different, I don't even know what they're called. There's like angels, there's hybrids, there's shifters. It's just a lot going on, and I really enjoy the story. It's not something that I can binge read. Like, I have to sit in a quiet room, take notes so I understand the story, which I don't mind doing that because I really enjoy the book. I've just never read a book like this before, so it's kind of something, it's a challenge for me, but I'm really enjoying it so far, and I'll keep y'all updated. But okay, y'all, that is all the books I read in 2022. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope y'all got some recommendations from something that you want to read that you sound interested in. I'll link my Goodreads and my bookstagram down below. And I will see y'all in 2023. I hope y'all enjoy reading as much as I do. I hope y'all will like and subscribe down below and follow my social medias. And I will see y'all in the new year. Thanks. Happy New Year.